Welcome to This Is My Architecture. My name is Yazid, and with me today is Gabe from TensorIoT.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Gabe, tell me a little bit more about what TensorIoT does.
Sure. So we specialize in IoT solutions, computing on the edge, and machine learning solutions. So we'll talk a little bit about all those.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about your architecture here. So tell us what's happening here. I see a car, driver, IoT, some green grass, edge devices. What are we looking at?
Sure. So we were focusing on a business case of driver safety and safety on the road. So what we did is we installed a camera in a car driver's seat area, and that's specifically focused on detecting unsafe behavior and specifically phone use.
From the driver.
This case.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you do once you have that frame or that video, for example, of an unsafe driver? What happens? How did you put everything together?
So in kind of a traditional IoT setup, we are using AWS IoT for the camera, so that kind of gives us security and protocol support. And in traditional, you'd be going to the cloud. In this case, we're using like data that's a little bit rich. Maybe it's video frames, so it might be bandwidth concerns. We prefer to do computing on the edge. So that's what we're using Greengrass for. Is sending the device or the data and events.
So why greengrass specifically?
So Greengrass actually has some pretty convenient features that come into play here, but it is also it's meant for computing on the edge, kind of data aggregation or machine learning in this case. So what we're doing, I want to point out, is we're not running the Greengrass and the computing on the actual car or a device connected to it. We're actually running it on these mech devices, which are kind of another piece of like LTE infrastructure.
Okay, so when you say LTE, to me it sounds like cell towers. Is that a true assumption?
In some cases, pretty close to the cell tower or running on it, but basically, these are kind of providing like smart routing to do like local computing versus sending things to the cloud, business logic there, or even application services, which was what I would call this here. What we get with running Greengrass on these edge devices is we get the ability to, just like the IoT cloud, you take our events and run them as triggers. So run trigger lambdas that kick off to other processes or aggregate data. And of course, what we're doing is kicking off to a machine learning inference process.
Which is also at the edge.
Yeah. So that's a model that's detecting, flagging if it's unsafe behavior, and then Greengrass will send that, in that case, to whoever's consuming that information, whether it's a driver application or some other safety application.
Yeah. Or a parent, for example.
Yeah. So that's the out to the
application that's consuming, that's consuming the model. So, machine learning at the edge is great. I can see that with Greengrass. It gives you that powerful flexibility to respond right back to the consuming app. But where does the model actually run? The actual machine learning model, where you train and keep modifying. Where does that run?
Right. So we get to another AWS service here that we use, SageMaker. So this is our kind of machine learning pipeline, because you have a lot of concerns of creating the model, training it, retraining it, and then deploying it as well to actually run the in production, the real life inference. We in the cloud we do the SageMaker workflow to create our models and then deploy them to Greengrass.
Can you tell us which models are you running on SageMaker today?
Sure. So we're using, for like a framework, MXNet, which is pretty popular. It plays pretty nicely with these services because it has a lot of support on AWS. And then we kind of decided to stick with something we're more familiar with, because SageMaker does have templates for a quick kind of workflow, but we were using a more open source, a mobile net. The reason why we have Docker up here is one of the custom workflows that SageMaker offers is you make your Docker container, train it locally, and then deploy
deploy it to the cloud.
Right.
Cool. So how is this integrate? So once you train a model, for example, via MXNet or mobile, how do you push that back to the edge so that it's available again for consumption?
Sure. So it's pretty simple, just as simple as a normal kind of greengrass flow of deploying your updates of your kind of group. In the UI itself or API, you can actually choose a SageMaker model that you've already built as an option, or if you had something in S3 is another.
You can do the same thing if it's in S3. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your architecture with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. This is my architecture.